Adam, it's great to have you here. Adam, I like to say you're like one of the happiest guys on the internet. You have your what do you call it? The weekly positivity challenge. You put that out on X. You're getting a lot of support for that. And I remember at C2E2, you put out a video too that went totally viral across X. You were having people dancing, all in their cosplay. I was even there, and I remember hearing the music. Had I known you were there, I would have gone down there and danced with you. But we've exactly, Adam, exactly. But people aren't dancing as much at the moment because there is a civil war that's brewing between mom and dad. Elon and Daddy Trump. They seem to be having a little lovers quarrel. But what's interesting is that you actually were at an event recently, and Elon Musk was on stage. We don't have the clip here, but people can look it up. You got to ask Elon a question. What was that question?
Yeah, so I said, "Hey Elon, it's Adam, your number one reply guy. You like my stuff all the time, and I'd love to be able to help you win moderate voters over to the Republican Party, and I could accelerate that. Would you be able to you follow me from your secondary account? Could you follow me from your main account?" And he looks and he goes, "I remember, kind of like I remember you." And he's like, "Sure, why not?" And then he followed me.
Yeah. So now Elon Musk is following you. Congratulations. He doesn't follow that many people, but you're one of the lucky few. Now, there was a reply today. So Elon Musk, they were talking about the simulation. The whole Mars catalog put out this message. The whole most entertaining outcome is the most likely. Someone asked Grok, what is he talking about? Grok says the phrase, the most entertaining outcome is most likely, often linked to Elon Musk and called Musk Razor, suggests that dramatic or exciting outcomes feel more probable because they capture attention. It reflects Musk's bold approach to innovation. And then Elon chimes in. He says, if simulation theory is correct, then my theory is probably right. Now, this was just a few hours ago, 4 hours ago. As boring simulations are terminated to save compute costs, which is what we do to simulations in our reality. Adam decides to reply. Adam's right here. He says, Elon, if you want to get the best bang for your buck, get involved in the primaries to push moderate Republicans. Primaries are extremely cheap and can get an unbelievable ROI. Moderate Republicans can win general elections and pull moderate Democrats away from woke progressives. Now, this is where it gets interesting because what does he come in? Elon Musk, boom, right there. There's the reply 4 hours ago. He says, okay. Now, I take this as an indication he has not thrown the baby out with the bathwater yet. How do you interpret this?
Yeah, so he goes into another post where he talks with this guy named, I think, The Rabbit Hole. And he talks about, for example, in game theory, because we're first past the post voting system, and I also brought it up to him, that you're always going to have two parties. Because that's just how first past the post voting ends up happening. So you're not going to go start an independent party. It's not going to work. And in fact, you're going to have a spoiler effect when you do that. We saw that with Ross Perot, for example, in the election was with Bush versus Clinton. So we don't want to have that kind of effect either. So what you could do instead is go for places that Republicans, if they had just a little bit of a boost of a more favorable candidates, like, for example, the Chicagoland area, which tends to be very heavily D. And you can find candidates who are socially moderate but fiscally conservative. You might be able to get enough Democrats to flip that are moderate Democrats to the Republican Party to get things through so that there's enough votes to be able to fix the bills however we need to so that it balances itself at the end. Now, I understand politicians have to do all these kinds of little favors because they're only thinking about their reelection the next cycle. But if you can get these Republicans on board in these slightly D heavier districts that are not too D heavy, you would then have the base that you need to be able to work off of that. And you can also, for example, get Republicans in other places who are very hesitant to make the necessary cuts or at least balance somehow the budget. So, for example, increase the standard deduction, but then you have to balance somewhere else. You have to pull maybe from the upper marginal rate, at least figure out some pathway forward to make those numbers balance so that compounding interest doesn't take over. So there's multiple strategies you can do than just simply throwing everything out, I think. And it could start with, for example, in D+2, D+3, D+4 districts, even things that are close like R+1, because right now in the midterms, it tends to favor tends to be against the incumbent party. and that puts us at a disadvantage. So maybe he can go in places that are R+1 that are dangerous and get somebody who's a little bit more socially moderate, so that they can get on the social issues like, you know, we shouldn't be, for example, teaching children LGBT stuff in the classroom at ages like 5, 6. But for example, at a high school course, education class in a scientific perspective, that could be, for example, where it can be taught as part of human biology, for example, things like that. So you can get Republicans.
Well, as long as we don't get confused about how many genders there are.
Yes, exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not something reasonable like that. You could be able to put back up a few more seats that gives you the ability to pass the legislation to get those Doge cuts through and have the necessary votes to do that. So you don't have to make these weird compromises that you have a ton of pork just to be able to push something through.
Very, very interesting take, Adam. Now, Elon's watching right now. He's watching. He's taking notes. What do you got to say to him with respect? I mean, you just gave him a blueprint, right? What do you want to say to him with respect to what's going on between him and Donald Trump right now? I mean, because Adam, you are all about unity. I know it. It says right there on your shirt, okay? That's your thing. Bringing people together, making people smile, making people dance. You know, it's all about positivity. And right now what we're seeing is, you know, a lot of angst and people are confused. People are angry. They don't know which side to go on. Everyone's like, I'm all MAGA. I'm Elon. Personally, I don't want to see Elon go. I don't want to see him go to the dark side and never come back. Now, I got to say, you know, when he dropped that neutron bomb and he pulled out the Epstein, you know, allegation and then doubled down with the MSNBC clip, I was like, damn, Elon just keeps going. And then he went on to agreeing with the impeachment angle with J.D. Vance becoming president. I don't know what was going through his head at the moment. I think he was just really pissed because he didn't like seeing this bill, all the hard work that he had done with Doge to get the Doge cuts, 160 billion, and then, you know, he was aiming for 2 trillion, and then only to see another 2.5 trillion added back. So basically wiping out all the work that he did and sacrificing his entire all of his businesses, right? They're firebombing Tesla dealerships. Tesla owners can't even drive in the streets for fear of being attacked. You know, and all Elon did was go into the swamp and try to drain it, and he was just too damn effective. You know, taking the piggy bank away from USAID that was, you know, funding all this disruption all around the world. You know, spreading absolute insanity. You know, we got. You know, I don't even want to get into some of the things we found that was going on at USAID. So that said, we have to acknowledge what Elon has accomplished, but we don't want to see him just run away and just basically light a match and throw it over his shoulder. So how do we get mom and dad back together? I mean, we're talking about two of the most powerful people in the world. You are the man of unity and smiles. What? Okay, let's say, okay, here. No, you're the divorce counselor right now. All right? This is who you are, Adam. You got mom and dad, they're in the room. How do you get them to kiss and make up?
Yeah, so I would point out some of the good things that, for example, Trump has accomplished. Like I'll point out, for example, he did a really good job on the border, and that's something, you know, that even if I have disagreements with Trump, I can always point to and say, hey, we nailed that like A+, like right on the nail. Border secure, down 90-something%. We're getting those deportations, especially of, you know, violent criminals getting expedited, and emphasize first, you know, the good. Before you say, okay, now where can we work on to our differences? Now it's going to take a little time because right now everyone's kind of like heated in the moment because we're all human beings. So we have, you know, our emotions that get to us. You know, it's going to take maybe a day or two to cool off. Everybody step back, let the weekend happen, come back and say, hey, let's figure out a pathway where we can try to work so that the next time this bill comes up, or at least we can get some reforms in, that we can start shrinking the deficit at least a little bit. Now, we can't necessarily maybe fix everything overnight, but let's see if we can just simply, whatever the deficit was under Biden, let's see if we can get that down by like 5-10 more percent. And then later, the next year, we'll do another 5-10 more percent. And then by that time, hopefully we have gotten some Republicans primaried and some Democrats primaried who are not in favor of figuring out a way to balance the budget out of office in less safe districts. And then you have the votes that you need so that in past 2026, you can start to make some more changes to balance the budget so that compounding interest doesn't take over. But it's going to be a process where we have to remind, oh, there's me, of all the good stuff that's been accomplished so far. That's what you typically do whenever you have a fight. You reminisce on the good things. You say, okay, you acknowledge each other's points. You have a valid point here. I'm in a bad spot. I can't, I have to sometimes pass pork just because nothing passes if I don't. And then he acknowledges, I understand you risked your entire life, your entire businesses, your billions in net worth and trillion dollar companies to try to help fix our country. Let's see if we can figure out a 2, 3, 4 year plan that we can implement that will fix the problem over time. We can't do it one day, but if we can do something incrementally, maybe we can get something to work.
So then what was Elon's big issue with the big beautiful bill? I mean, was it because Doge cuts were not codified? Was that like really one of the main sticking points?
So I'll give you a good example. So one, it increases the deficit. So that's a huge issue in itself, because there's so many. This bill's like over 1,000 pages long, so there's so many places there. But an example would be, for example, subsidies. So there are no more EV subsidies, and he's fine with that. But there's also continuing to be gas and oil subsidies, and he's like, okay, that's skewing the market. If you're trying to cut out pork and pork spending, you have to start cutting out all these different subsidies, especially if this isn't something that we're competing with China on. So we're not competing with China on oil and gas. We're competing on things like, for example, solar. They're going to eat our manufacturing base right underneath us because they're flooding our markets. So, for example, we could do maybe more strategic tariffs on solar. I think that was in place earlier, and we could figure out a pathway there. But I think it's more that he saw some subsidies going away, and he was okay with that. He, in fact, advocated for it. But he's seeing other subsidies not going away. And he's like, well, now you're skewing the market of what actually is the actual cost of the energy. And therefore, you're slowing down the progress that we need to build the manufacturing base so that we can compete with China on solar, battery, and other stuff.
Wow. Yeah, I can see why you'd be upset about that. But, I mean, is it enough to throw the Epstein bomb in the middle of the whole thing?
Yeah, that's a little bit overboard. I think it was just out of pure frustration. He did it. It's kind of like when you're having a fight and then you text your ex something you're gonna regret and you're like, oh my god, I shouldn't have said that, and then you're like, yeah. So I think it went overboard. Like Elon knows that the wealthy all hang out with each other. It's a very small, close-knit circle. But because you hang out with somebody does not necessarily mean that you participated in something with them.
Let's be honest. The information relating to Trump and Epstein has been out for decades. It's not a secret that Epstein was a member of Mar-a-Lago, and the minute that Trump found out what Epstein was up to, he kicked his ass to the curb. And then everyone's like, oh, he was on the jet, he was on the Lolita Express. Well, yeah, he wasn't going down to the Little St. John's Island. He was taking flights up to Jersey when his plane wasn't working.
It's like a car ride where we go and you're like, hey, I'm on the way, you want to hop in with me, kind of deal.
Yeah. So I just hope that these guys can come to the table. Do you think it's salvageable? I mean, is this okay? Let me before we go there. I mean, there's people who think that this whole thing was manufactured. I mean, I'm hearing stories that saying, wait a second, this was all manufactured. That before Elon left, they had a conversation. Now, of course, this is just speculation. Elon has a conversation with Trump and says, we're going to get this Epstein thing out, and I'm going to come out and I'm going to drop a bomb on you on you're going to piss on my bill, and then I'm going to say Epstein, and then I'm going to make sure that Epstein comes out to prove my innocence, and I'm going to show the list, and then it's going to prove my innocence, but inadvertently, because everyone says, oh, they want to see the Don on the list, but inadvertently they expose the entire game. Is that even a possibility? I mean, I think that's out there, but
I wish that was the case, but I think it's more of just pure egos, frustrated. They're both, are executives or CEOs. They're used to, being the boss of thousands of people, so they're not used to having too much pushback when they have an idea. So I think it's more that their egos are clashing at the moment. But cool heads will prevail eventually because they're both on the same team. They both want to accomplish the same goals, just different ways of going about doing it. And it might take a little bit of time to cool off. Um, I hope he does release the files because that'll clear things out really quickly for him.
Mhm.
And we'll see. It's basically what we've known before, that everyone that's rich knows each other, they're friends with each other, and that doesn't necessarily mean they participate in some of the stuff that
Right.
they do.
You know what's interesting, Adam, is that a couple months back, the media was trying to drive a wedge between Elon and Trump. It was evident. We saw it everywhere. They were calling him President Musk and Vice President Trump. Like they were, I mean, the photographs circulating online with Elon sitting in the Resolute desk. Like they were clearly trying to drive a wedge because of the effectiveness of Elon's campaign, not just with Doge, but I mean even on the campaign trail. I mean, spending millions and giving away money for people to just, say, I'll support the Constitution, right? So Elon was so damn effective that they were trying to drive a wedge, but we all saw through it. We raised the alarm bells. We said, listen, Elon, Don, listen, don't play the game. This is all a facade. We understand what's being played here. Now, fast forward. Now, in my inside, I always felt like these are titans. We have the most powerful man in the world, all right, and we have the richest man in the world. And I always had a feeling it was going to come to a point where these guys throw off so much gravity that eventually they're just going to hit. And they're going to collide, and it's just going to explode. And I think that's what we just saw. We saw the breaking point. But I think what's beautiful is that when something is broken, you can pick up the pieces and you can put it back together in an even more beautiful way. And I think I hope that that's what happens. Like when if you hit rock bottom, you hear these stories. People, they hit rock bottom. It's the worst part of their life, but like only place they can look is up, and it's better, and it's all it's better from there. There's nothing worse than where you are, right? So I think that maybe we've hit the bottom of that moment, and now it's just going to come back better. What do you say?
Yeah, and we also have to understand Elon's mindset. So Elon has Asperger's, and there are certain characteristics that are very common in people who have Asperger's. And one of those things are like, for example, emotional intelligence tends to not be their key strength. They tend to be very technical people, and they tend to get very upset if, for example, if they do something that's their life's work. They get really upset if all of a sudden it comes apart. So, for example, him and his Doge and him and his sacrifices all of a sudden getting undone just really got to him. Now, he's making these posts. I think they might be a little bit over the top. He needs to tone it down a little bit, just like Trump needs to tone it. Both of them have to tone it down. But since he's on the spectrum, he has a very different perspective of how things are. So he's not as quite concerned about interpersonal relationships, he's more concerned about work. Like, what are the results I'm getting? Did the bill get changed to at least reduce the deficit somewhat? It hasn't yet. All right, I'm going to keep pushing until somebody is going to it's going to stir a fire under someone, and finally they're going to say, all right, we have to make a few revisions here and there just to at least maybe get it down 5%, the deficit or something like that. So it's just a different mindset. His mind functions differently because he has Asperger's than people who are would be cognitively normal, so to speak. So
Sure.
yeah.
So with respect to the Doge, I love the Doge, and Elon's no longer at the head of it. But Doge is still there. I mean, they're still embedded, right? They're still getting work done, right?
Yep. It's still an ongoing process because it's like a game of cat and mouse, unfortunately, where you find a couple little things here and then somebody tries to sneak a couple things here, and you're gonna have to constantly play this game of chase around, and then hopefully with time you can scale up AI, and AI can simply just parse this information and do things at superhuman scales to be able to find this corruption a lot faster. So it's going to take us probably a bit of time to go there. And I know they're integrating AI. I've heard throughout the administration to leverage the tools, and hopefully in 2 years from now, 3 years from now, it'll be at a point where you can't sneak anything past it. No one bill with 1,000 pages and you got like 8 hours to read it.
Yeah, it is pretty crazy when they put these bills together. They slide all kinds of crap in there, and then, you got one person who doesn't like this piece, and they're gonna grandstand on that, and then you have other people who are gonna say, well, we want the best parts of it. We don't even know what's in the damn bill. Like, where is it? Where do we read the bill? Like, you do need to take AI, and you need to throw this bill into it and say, okay, I don't like this thing, so tell me if this is in it, right? It's a guessing game.
Oh yeah, it's very difficult. Thankfully, the tools are being developed. So Grok has a ton of potential. He just built a huge data center out in Memphis, and it's going to be absolutely massive. And as they continue to train the models, they're going to get continuously better. So it's something that they will be able to handle. Right now, they're kind of wishy-washy still, especially when things get really, really large, like thousands of pages. But that's something that, like, we saw how far like AI generation for videos has come along, how far it's come along for image generation, how far along Chat GPT models from Chat GPT-2 until the current version has come along. That this progress is almost exponential. So probably in a year or two, this will be stuff that will get smoothed over because the AI will be able to do a lot of that heavy lifting.
Well, let's just hope there's no more heavy lifting between Trump and Elon Musk. We hope that we can get mom and dad back together. Now, before you go, I know you've got some big things going on. You've been talking about it. You've been sharing some of those things with me when I see you at different events around town. You've got a big event with X, and you actually just had your account was hacked, and you messaged me like, Gary, help me out. You guys probably see I post Adam's stuff all the time on our feed on Next News Network. Adam's an affiliate of Next News Network, so he is one of the very few people that actually have Next News Network in his actual name. On his profile, so he's one of the very few people. We don't give those out to people. So your account was hacked. What happened there?
So actually, it wasn't hacked. It was actually temporarily banned because they did a bot purge, and the algorithms use a bunch of different metrics to determine what is a bot. And unfortunately, people who are extremely active, like myself on X, sometimes get swept up in these purges. And so, for example, I was organizing a meetup on August 30th here in Chicago, so I could teach people how to do it's an X meetup, but it's also to teach people how to do social media and marketing more effectively. And I'm targeting Republicans who are running for office so that they can get off the ground and get going faster with their campaigns and not have to hire multi-$1,000 consultants. Now I'm messaging, about 116 different influencers to be able to organize this. I did like a test pilot program where I just grabbed randomly about 116 and said I'm going to send them out messages and see who's helping, who's not from that 116 batch. And then later, who's helping, I'm going to link them up. So when I do these tours across the country, teaching people how to do social media more effectively, I can give them referral codes so that they can earn income from what they're doing and they can earn a living. So when I was doing that, because I'm sending out to 116 influencers, that's a little bit too much. And unfortunately, the algo thought I was a bot, and so I got taken down. Now, thankfully, I'm friends with a lot of the people that work at X. Linda Yaccarino follows me. Elon follows me. I let some of my friends know immediately what happened, and I created a video to put in my community that I sent to one of my friends to post in there, who's a mod there, and said, just tag Elon, Linda. And I just said, tell everyone, just reply to this, send it out there. And I got my account back roughly within 24 to 36 hours or so. So relatively quickly.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. I'm just very glad that a lot of the people at X love what I do. And there will be X employees at the event on August 30th. I found out that one of them is coming, and I'm hoping they might consider hiring me to be able to do this on tour. I've already figured out a model to make this economically viable. But if Elon backs it directly with X, then I could help Elon train Republicans all across the country by doing these events where I teach them the marketing and the social media and the ad panels. And then afterwards hold the X meetup. So it's a 2-for-1. And I can help them scale up faster. But yeah, they'll be coming there. And I'm so grateful that they follow me because I was able to get my account resolved. I wish they could do at scale to resolve these counts. I'm going to talk to Elon and Linda and all these people such that when I do these events across the country, these meetups across the country, that there can be an employee there. So if someone has an account issue, they can go there. So we happen to be in Cleveland or we happen to be the next day in Seattle. They can go there in person, file an appeal form, and actually get in-person help. So I'm hoping they agree to that idea. So it'll be like a proposal that I do where I can do a 3-for-1. I could teach Republicans how to do social media better, do a meetup for X, and then resolve account issues on the spot.
Well, that would be really something, because there's no social media companies that I know of that actually have physical representation that you can like speak to. Now, I mean, when my account was demonetized in February of 23, which is devastating. It took a long time for me to reach back to all my contacts, going back to my Super PAC days when I was running the Revolution PAC. When we actually had a Google representative who was working with us because we were the most effective Super PAC online at the time. And then, of course, when 2016 comes around, Next News Network was the #1 online YouTube channel for all the politics and White House and all that. That's the rest is history. But it took a long time for me to actually get to somebody physically to speak to them to get answers, and of course I didn't really like the answers, but I'm happy to see that you are out there, you are being effective, you're getting people like in real life, you know, like you're detaching from this, you know. Your phone is in your hand, in your face, and the world's around you. And, you know, you're getting people to look up. You're getting people to dance and to unify. And I just hope that, you know, your work is successful. I know it will be successful because, I mean, everything you do is just, it's full of joy. I just love seeing you, man. I mean, like, you're just like, yes, I want to help. Like, what can I do? You know, and that's, I think that's one of the big joys, especially when you came to CPAC and you helped us out at CPAC, and then you came to our hotel room. You had a lot of beverages for everybody, more than I was used to. Thank goodness I was leaving, and I didn't get to see what happened that night. I don't even want to know. I guess what happens at CPAC stays at CPAC. But anyway, so real quick, throw it out there. What's the date, and how can people find you? I mean, obviously you're on X, but how can people get involved in this real life X meetup?
Yeah, so you can go to my website, adamlowisz.com, ADAMLOWIS as in Sam, Z as in zebra.com. That'll take you to my Eventbrite page. So I have tickets that are very affordable for the general meetup. Those are $25 plus the Eventbrite fees, which is like $3. And then I have the tickets, which are the VIP tickets, which will be me actually creating a PowerPoint presentation and going about an hour, hour and a half with Q&A of teaching you guys through the process of how to do, you know, ads, marketing, geo-targeting, set up for political ad buys, because some require you to get verified. So you can go through the steps. And also, if you have a business, for example, these are great tools to how to do marketing for your own business, to grow your own business also. It's not just for politics. And then I have one more step up, which is the Ultra VIP. If you want a one-on-one session with me for like 20, 30 minutes, where you say, hey, here's my problems, I need you to solve them. I'll be like, sure, no problem. You don't have to pay $1,000 to a consultant, just 50 extra bucks. I'll sit down with you and I'll hash out, you know, a strategy for you to go forward.
I'm trying to bring up the page right now. I think this is it. Here it is. Yeah, Adam's Meetup. There it is. I think we got it. Boom. Adam's X Meetup. X Meetup from across the country. Meet each other, learn about X, network, and have fun. Follow X.com. Adam Lowisz for the latest updates. And it's going to be at the Playbook Ultra Sports Bar. Is that right?
Yeah. So my friends own the venue, so they're doing an amazing deal. They're basically giving me the place for free. And I'll have a stage on there. I'll have microphones and everything. And they have a lot of TVs all around, so I could do the presentation up there. And since my friends own the place, we could basically do what we want with it and have fun.
About the organizer. Right on. There he is, Adam. Simple guy trying to do great things.
That's my motto.
Well, that's the truth. That's the Adam that I know. Okay, final thoughts, real quick. Trump, Musk, where's it going?
I say give it a little bit of time to cool off. You know, things will cool down maybe about after a couple of days, maybe a week or so, and hopefully things go forward where strategy where Elon realizes, hey, you know what, Trump is playing with a bad hand, and we got to give him a better hand after the midterms, and that's going to require us to get these moderates in these D districts or these R+1 or R+2 districts that are a little bit, they're not so safe in the midterms, and get better candidates for that might be able to get across the finish line and give him the hand that he needs to make the reforms he needs.
All right, Adam, thank you so much for joining us here on the Next News Network, and I'll see you around town.
Have a good one. I'm going to do my exit.
All right. All right. There's Adam Lowisz. Unity is his game.